What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Mental Caffeine. Here we are in episode 9, and my name is Justin, and I'm here with my boy Landon. And this is an episode where we're going to get into some things that we think might be pretty interesting to some people out there about your 20s and about how strange your 20s can be. And maybe talk about some things that popular culture doesn't tell you about life after 20. Let's get into it. You ready, boy?
Yep, let's do it.
Let's do it. Landon, what's up, my boy? How you living?
Hey, how's it
How you
going?
doing,
I'm
boy?
good, man. Good. I just got back from, well, not just got back. I've been back about a week now, but roughly just got back from a family vacation. It was nice. We went to the beach. I got to spend some time with my nieces. And it was just relaxing. I was kind of telling some other people that, as nice as like the beaches and like going to eat at new places and all that, all the stuff that comes with like family vacation, right? As nice as some of that stuff is, I think the best part was just a change of environment, like just to switch it up and be in like a different house for a week. And it's amazing how like just changing your setting for a little bit can reset a lot of things. So it was very nice. But
Oh, dude,
what
that's
about you, man?
awesome.
What you been up to?
Man, well, you've been over there living relaxed and peaceful. Your boy has been doing a little vacation stuff too, but I've been going the other way. I went to a casino a couple weeks ago. I told you about that. Got me a little bit of money up. So, while you was
You know,
relaxing, I was over there stressing. Boy, I
you
was
know
sitting
this
there in
means
the
we have to
casino,
do a
dog.
this means we have to do a gambling episode, right?
Oh, yeah,
We're
100%.
a
We'll
mental
circle back around to
we're a
that.
mental
We'll
health
circle.
we're a
We'll
mental health
circle.
podcast, so we can't just
But let me
ignore
tell you
that.
though, I was in the casino, boy. My little Fitbit right here told me I did 30 minutes of cardio, sitting there with my heart rate up, boy. I was
God,
just going
dog.
crazy.
Who needs to run when you can just, run it at the poker table and run it at the
There you
slot
go,
machine,
boy.
you know?
There you go. There you go. So we both been vacationing in two different directions. I see.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. In fairness, though, that sounds fun. I probably would have enjoyed that too. But the real question is, and obviously you don't have to get into like the details of it, but did you come out on top? Did you come out better for it financially?
Oh yeah. So I don't get me wrong. I know that is not the long term like thing with casinos, but no, I came out with a little bit. So now for us, a legal betting state is not super far away from here. So I'll be giving it back this football season when it's time to start
Yeah,
making some bets.
man, and you said the magic word. I really hate that you said football right now because if I could easily, I'm not going to, but I could easily turn this episode into a football episode if you let me just ramble on it because I'm ready. I'm so ready for college football. Go dogs, baby. I'm it's that time of year, and this happens every year where like there's games I play, there's shows I watch, there's things I do in my free time that I enjoy, but I don't have I don't have that what am I looking for? I guess I just don't have like something live to watch every week
Hmm.
or something to kind of change it up a little bit. And just when I think I can't make it, football comes around and kind of fills that void. And so
Hmm.
I'm so excited to just sit down and watch football on the
Oh,
weekends. Like,
definitely,
and that's it. Because I think,
definitely.
and I actually did I think, well, I thought about it. I can't remember if I sent you a message about this or not, but I built a lot of community around football growing up.
Hmm.
So even though like obviously I enjoy the sport of football and watching it, I equally enjoy spending time with others who enjoy it because 90% of the time when I have watched football, it was around loved ones and friends.
Hmm.
Excuse me. So that aspect of it I'm looking forward to as well. But
Oh,
anyways,
definitely.
I'll stop. I'll get off the football thing because like I said, I'm excited for it. It's in the forefront of my mind and I could talk about it all day. But we have a fun topic today that probably will tie into kind of some of those days of us watching football together. So I imagine we'll come back around at some point.
Oh, 100%. And because Landon, some of our numbers are telling us that we got some listeners from out of the states, we should specify we're talking about American football. But I guess the same could
Oh
be
yeah,
said
yeah.
for European football and all
Yeah.
kinds of other sports. Man, a lot of community, a lot of connection can happen around sports, and it all started or reached its peak rather for us for sports in general and live sporting events probably in our 20s back when we were in college. That's when Landon
Yeah.
and I met for the first some of the first times. In fact, I think Landon, I could be wrong, but I think the first time we met was watching an American football game and just talking about all
Yeah.
the things
I
that
mean,
go into
probably.
sports.
The countless hours we spent in that house just yelling at grown at the time grown men and people who were older than us. But the sad thing is we're older than 90% of those people playing now. So, but at the time, yelling at grown people playing football, the countless hours we spent.
100%.
So those are good times and good. I have fond memories of us bonding in those moments. So
100%, man, 100%. And for anybody who might not know, Landon and I put our whole bodies on the line when it comes to cheering for sports. So we now that we're crossing 30, man, it's we got to be a little bit more mindful of that kind of stuff. So
I and I won't stay on this too long, but I have to mention it since you kind of opened the door. I'm just gonna kick the door in and step right in. So I will never. There's been a couple incidents, so I won't get into all of them, but I'm pretty sure I recall watching Justin rip a T-shirt watching a Ravens game, and when I say rip a T-shirt, I don't mean he grabbed a shirt that was like sitting beside him or like hanging on a chair or something. No, the white T-shirt he was wearing, he just it was awesome. It was
let me
awesome.
specify. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
glad. I'm glad one of us thought so. Let me say
Awesome. Yeah.
that was before I was a working professional. I'm very serious now, as you can tell,
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah. You
things.
haven't. Yeah. You've changed so
I have
much.
calmed
Yeah.
down. I have calmed down, but it was a journey. But you know that around that time, back in our 20s, man, things life was different, and
Yeah.
comparatively, especially to our younger years, we talked about this a lot, man. That our 20s were very different from the times beforehand, and maybe even fundamentally different than the times that they are now. So I thought it'd be fun to just talk about the 20s, man, because I think the 20s are a weird decade for most people, and
Oh
I
yeah.
want to just kind of cover a bunch of things, man, because I think there's so many things change in those years that a lot of times folks look around and go, man, this feels weird. So much has happened in the last however many years of my life that I don't know if this is normal. So I thought it'd be fun to
Mm.
talk about some of those normal, chaotic things.
Yeah. I'm all about it. I have a lot of. I'll put it this way, and we can dive into this a little bit more as we get through the episode. But for every amazing story I have from my 20s, I have an equally terrible story, and I
Yeah,
think, and we'll get into that more. But yeah, let's get into it.
let's do it. Let's
So
do
I
it. Oh,
so I guess like, and not to like, I guess um well, I guess I'll lead us off, so to speak. But I did want to bring this up because you texted me earlier about this topic, right? And you was like, hey, what if we talk about this? And I was like, immediately I was like, yes, because I think it's while it's not the most like I guess unique or niche topic, I think it's a topic that a lot of people can relate to because your 20s are just such a uh so I've heard people say it's a weird decade, and I agree, but I would use the word volatile. It's a very volatile, and I would also use the word polarizing. I would use both those words. Um, but but anyways, I just kind of wanted to pick your brain for just a second. What kind of drove you to choose this topic?
I think primarily, man, it's because according to the numbers that we've been having lately, man, a lot of our viewers are somewhere in their early to mid, sometimes to late 20s. So I think primarily that, that it might be something useful for our immediate audience. But secondarily, I think it's because the 20s, like you said, are volatile. And so many things happen that lay the foundation of the rest of our adult lives. And a lot of times we can know that on a cognitive level, but when you're there living it or going through it, whatever that is, it can feel like all over the place. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard people, talk about different things and say, ask me personally, Justin, is this normal? Is this healthy? Is this insert descriptor here, right? Because it's so up and down and so chaotic sometimes that it can become a little bit overwhelming for a lot of people. So that was the some of the primary drivers for that. Um, and to kind of start it off with, Landon, I want to see what you
Yeah.
think about this, man, and what you remember from your 20s. And I think the primary thing when I think about the decade uh, of being in your 20s is your sense of identity. Your sense of identity.
Mm.
You know, when you're young, when you're a teenager or maybe younger than that, your life is very structured by things outside of yourself. You have to go to school. You have to associate with certain people in your neighborhood or maybe in your extracurricular activities that your parents signed you up for, or maybe you have to participate in different school things. You have to be around these same people, whether you want to or not. Like social elements of things are built in place. Certain challenges are kind of in the structural foundation of your day to day life. And once you become 20, 21, life starts to look a whole lot different than it did even 3 years prior.
Mm.
When you by the time the year that you reach 20 years old, 4 years ago, you were barely able to drive a car. And 4 years from then, from 20 to 24, you're going to be expected to have some sense of direction that you want for the rest of your life. And that hinge point there can be such a different thing than most people have ever experienced in their life. On top of that, your social dynamics have probably really changed from the time you were in high school. Your interests have probably changed a lot since the time you were in high school. The way you approach dating or the way you approach social activity has probably changed a lot since the days that you were young. And also that sense of existential future, whatever that means, the idea of the future seems a little bit more pressing, a little bit more real, less of a opaque idea and more like a holy crap, what am I doing with myself kind of thing. And that can also create a certain kind of pressure, right? And it doesn't help that with social media and things like that we have endless amounts of pressure to kind of guide us in particular directions or trying to show us that this way is better than some different way. Some people are joining the military, some people are staying home, some people are living with their parents, some people are backpacking across Europe, some people are, moving in with significant others, some people have children now. Like there's so many different changes that all happen a lot of times in that decade of the 20s. So
Mm.
so when you think back to your 20s, bro, what do you remember as far as how things looked by the time you were in your early to mid 20s? How did that change, as you got through your later 20s? And how did that compare to life as a teenager?
Oh man, that's I could go for a long time on that question, but for the sake of time, so you asking me that, the first things that kind of pop in my head are I guess a little bit of like background. So I remember I went to public school, graduated high school, went to college, I got a degree, got a media degree, and the goal and I don't want this isn't strictly about I guess jobs per se, but because of and this might be and I'm actually interested in hearing other perspectives. So if you have like another perspective you want to provide in the comments, please let us know. So because I don't know if this is strictly just an American thing, because obviously we're both American, we live in the U.S. Um, but I think it's undeniable that in this country, a lot of your identity, at least on a public stage, revolves around what you do for a living. So growing up, going through high school, going through college in this country, you spend a lot of your focus on just pursuing a job or career oriented goal of some point of some sort, right? So I say that to now bridge over to starting out in my early 20s. My goal kind of at the time was just, man, just get a degree that makes me somewhat marketable to get a job of some kind. At that point in my life, I was actually really interested in going into like sports broadcasting,
Mm-hmm.
and I still do have a love for that field, even at this age. It's not what I currently do at the moment, but I do still have a love for it. Um, but I say that to say, as I pursued that in my early 20s and graduated and all that, it was one of the it's just one on a long list of things that you learn about yourself as you grow. So at that point in my life, I was like, man, I'm I really want to like get into this sports broadcasting. But when I started actually doing a little bit of work in that field, nothing major, but I was like doing some production assistant work at some games, at some like professional football games and stuff. There were things I liked about it. There was actually a lot I didn't like about it though. And so what do you do when in your brain for almost all of your life, this thing that you love and this thing that you chase, you then realize, maybe I don't want to be a part of it, at least a part of it in the capacity that I was at the time. So when life does that, that's a big curveball because you've you've looked at this thing through a certain lens for so long. You pursued this thing. You've even in some ways attained what you were wanting to do. Maybe not on the scale that you want to, but you at least got to the point where you're working in it and you're kind of seeing, okay, is this something I want to do?
Hmm.
And then you realize it's not. And I haven't told a ton of people this, but in a lot of ways that was actually like heartbreaking for me. Like I remember reflecting and being like, dude, like I've graduated, I've got experience in this field, and there's actually a lot about it that I don't like.
Yep. On top
What?
of,
Like,
oh, you have those job related questions because everywhere you go, especially in America and maybe even abroad, when you go and you meet
yeah,
somebody, the first thing they ask is what you do for a living. And in your
yeah,
20s, if you take the university route like we both did, being a college student was a big part of your sense of self and identity. On top of that, your experiencing college friends and doing college things, maybe even college relationships and on a romantic level, and trying to plan out the future. And a lot of times in your, especially your early 20s, and as you remember, planning out our future was the overarching pressure, whether that was job, romance, friends, where are we going to live, what are we going to orient towards in life. The idea of what's your future going to look like is
yeah.
at the forefront of so many people's minds. Do you remember that? It was that on the
Well,
forefront of your mind a lot?
yeah, and like, and kind of like what I was, I guess, alluding to. I don't want this to be just about jobs, but I think the reality of it is, at least where we live at, that's going to be a lot of this conversation because of what are a lot of people doing in their 20s. They're trying to figure out, at least from a job standpoint, what they're going to do with their life and how they are going to make a living and survive. So that's gonna be a big player in these conversations, and it was a big focus of mine at the time. So that's just one aspect of it. Um, I guess were there any like I know you didn't specifically ask about like jobs per se, but were there like any other aspects of my 20s that maybe you wanted to like ask me about or pick my brain about?
Well, just in general, like the social stuff, the
Okay.
way your family switched, the way your
Mm,
friendship circle switched, the way your romantic stuff switched, all those changes in the volatility of the 20s.
yeah. So I think so. I'm gonna kind of wrap because a lot of what you said I think does kind of fall under a big like social umbrella. Um, and we can dive like a little bit deeper, I guess, in like romantic stuff. We've already covered some of that in past
Hmm.
episodes, a little bit. We haven't like deep dove or anything, but I guess I'll just kind of throw it under a social umbrella. I think, man, I think high school's so weird. Like thinking back on it now, it's so weird. Like the friends that I had at the time, and it's not like I guess unfortunately, but like also it's just part of growing up and growing. I don't hardly talk to a lot of them anymore, and I think a lot of people out there can relate. It's not like that's not coming from like a malicious
Hmm.
standpoint or like there wasn't like a falling out or anything bad. It's just you just grow up and your life branches off. And so I think so my social relationships in high school were very much like well, it's just kind of a product of proximity where I have classes with these people. I'm I have to be here, they have to be here. And I think at the time like socially our brains are just kind of reaching for community in any shape, form or fashion. And so when you combine your brain reaching for community with being 16 years old, I think that's why people go through a lot of the things they do in high school. Because at that time you're young, you don't have a lot of life experience, but also you're running into a lot of people who have different experiences,
Right.
but they're also young and immature. So it's just a breeding ground for. Not, I mean, not all bad things. Like it's a breeding because like you can really form some strong bonds for the rest of your life at that time.
Hmm.
But it is also a breeding ground for slip ups in life. So I think
Definitely.
after high school, going into college, I don't think that completely goes away because there's a lot of people in college that I met was friends with that I don't really talk to anymore. Again, just because we're at different stages in life now. But I do think you wisen up at least a little bit. You definitely make mistakes in college, but it's not on the same scale's not the word. It's just different. Um, and I think at the college age, once you kind of get into college and you start transitioning into just full blown adulthood, it's kind of like what I was talking about with my job, right? You then start figuring out, okay, not only like what do I like and not like about a job or career that I'm pursuing, but also what are the kind of people that I want to spend my time around.
Right.
Um,
And for our friends out there who don't take the university route, that same process happens. It's just a little bit more abbreviated. You go from
mm,
having friends in school to now you have a full-time job, or now you're in the military, or now you're pursuing some type of career path that's not the traditional university 4-year degree kind of thing. Um, and so you go from having your social systems kind of built into your daily life because they were structured by somebody else to now all of a sudden you're the master of your own structure and figuring out what's important to you at the same time going through the normal developmental challenges of being and achieving more independence in your life, and that can be an easy thing or a not so easy thing depending on what kind of family you come from. And so there's so much that come out of that, and a lot of it, Landon, comes back to our sense of identity, right? The idea that at one point in time when you're 16, you're defined by your hobbies, with some exception, but you're a lot of times you're defined by what you like to do. You're defined by who
yeah.
you hang out with. You're defined by who you may or may not be dating at the time. But when you start to get into your 20s, you're starting to have to structure out your own life in a unique way that you have no practice at. And a lot of times it can
Mm.
feel like it's all over the place. And so, for instance, what do you do when you don't have to socialize with anybody? But you want to socialize with people. So now you have to go make small talk and go to parties and go and put yourself in other environments and navigate through some anxiety in a certain kind of way. Or maybe you live, way away from your family, and now that's the first time you've ever done that. So that's creating some things. In fact, some people, as you know, Landon, may be coming to terms with some lived traumatic experiences that were normal when they were young, but the older they get, the more they realize that certain things shouldn't have been normal, right? And so there's some challenges with that, but all of it, man, is a shift in our identity. And what's interesting about that whole thing, I mean, it's obviously itself an ordeal, but what's also a kind of an adjacent ordeal is that everybody we know, with some exception, but for the most part, Landon, everybody we know is also going through that kind of internal flux and volatility, right? If you have
Yeah.
attended university and took the traditional 4-year path, or if you didn't and you got into the job force or you went into the military, whatever path you take, right? By the time you're, what would you say, like maybe 25, 28, something like that, by that time, I think a large majority of our audience knows somebody who is their age, in that age range, who has had children by now. We know somebody
Hmm.
who's been married by now. We know
Yeah.
somebody who has been to jail by now. We know somebody who does drugs on a heavier basis than we feel like might be necessary. We know somebody who has experienced probably some pretty severe trauma. We know somebody who has came and fundamentally went a completely different direction than anybody saw that they would do, and hopefully that was for a good thing. We know people who have traveled. We know people who go out every night. We know people who stay at home every night, and we know people who can't be out past 9 p.m. according to their parents. Right? We have experience
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
with all these folks who live such a variety of experiences, and we ourselves are trying to organize what path are we going to go on, and that doesn't get talked about a lot. I don't know if people readily uh, analyze it from that perspective. But that volatility, as much as it happens in us, it also happens in everybody our age when we're
Everybody.
in that age range. And
I,
what I
I
like
I
to
do
tell
think it's
people,
easy. Sorry, I just wanted to hop on that for a second. I do think it's easy to get caught up because I remember having these thoughts in my like early to mid 20s that it's easy to get caught up in kind of your own stuff and think that like in a way it's kind of like selfish, right? Like kind of self-centered, like I'm the only one going through like these problems and having these weird thoughts at this point in my life. And then the reality is everyone is. And now it's in different capacities, people have different paths and different things that they're doing, but I I mean, I would bet money that a lot of almost I would not even a lot, like all people at that point in their life are just figuring it out, and they have a lot of uncertainty going on. But go ahead.
No, I was going to say, man, that's the thing. Uncertainty is the name of the game. Your
Yeah.
20s are going to feel uncertain. In fact, it would be strange if they weren't in some capacity uncertain, because what's happening is you have to decide and find out what path you're going to try to walk. And all of us choose one, but only some of us are very intentional about it. And I think the more that we can help people have that awareness that it is uncertain, that it is volatile, that it is chaotic, and that's actually the expected range of possibilities, then that can be very useful for some folks. Now, when I say chaotic and volatile and all over the place, it doesn't have to be like active. It doesn't have, or in other words, it doesn't have to be something that we experience externally. It can be internal. This thing of like, I've lived at home now for however many years, or maybe I still don't know what direction I want my life to go into, or maybe I'm having trouble in navigating some of these things with my family because I want to be independent, but independence is hard in this family, right? So there are some challenges there that happen internal, but it's still chaotic, it's still volatile, it's
Mm.
still uncertain. And again, circling back, I think that identifying your 20s as all over the place, influx, volatile, however you want to describe it, but just the nature of uncertainty and how normal that stuff is. And once we establish that uncertainty is kind of the name of the game, the next thing is, okay, what do we do with that uncertainty? And I am a big advocate of just embracing the uncertainty that comes along with that, because
Yeah.
a lot of our 20s are trying to figure out how to circumvent a lot of uncertainty. How can we create direction, or how can we make sense of all this chaos that we're having to navigate? Some of it good chaos, some of it not so good chaos, but maybe it's just in flux. And so we'll try to oftentimes increase our sense of stability through a variety of ways. And instead, I think it can be useful to just, if you understand that uncertainty is the name of the game, then we try to make certainty. We try to take steps to achieve that, but we also try to understand that uncertainty is still going to be a very big part of this equation, because we're actively figuring out what routes we're going to take, whether that's in our career or in our social life or even our romantic priorities or even our where we want to live in relationship to our families of origin. All those things are uncertain, and they're kind of supposed to be, especially in that age range between 20 and 29. So there's my little take on that, Landon. What do you think about that kind of perspective there?
So, so uncertainty is a big word there, and it's actually funny you bring that up because something I've been thinking about recently, um, and I can't take credit for this line of thinking or anything. I think it was in like a TikTok or something I watched, but it resonated with me, and it's actually helped me out recently. So I remember in my 20s, really struggling with uncertainty, like, and everyone does, but I think, but it really affected me a lot. Like I just, in a lot of ways, in a lot of ways, I lived scared because I just didn't know what was going to happen. So I do want to say on one hand, and this isn't to like discourage people or anyone like that, but that's not something that magically goes away when you hit 30. I think that there's an element of uncertainty that honestly is with us until we are no longer on this earth. However, what does change, in my experience, is how you handle that uncertainty. So, 25-year-old me would have been freaking out, stressing, losing sleep, worrying, all that stuff. 31-year-old me, now, depending on what it is, obviously, like if you're going through a traumatic time, you could still have those things happening. But I'm talking about uncertainty in the sense of like it's not leaning good or bad, you just don't know what's coming.
Hmm.
When it comes to things like that, you have to learn, or at least what I've had to do, and I would encourage people around my age or younger as well, learn to get comfortable with uncertainty. The reason why I say that, not because it's fun, but because it's not going away. Uncertainty will always be present. If un, there'd be a lot of wealthy people if uncertainty was not constantly a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like there'd be a lot of people just figuring it out early and going on the quote unquote correct path.
Right.
Um, so I want to circle back and just kind of reiterate that now, whenever there's things going on in my life that I don't understand, I don't know which way it's going to go. In a lot of ways, I just get comfortable with not knowing, and I release it. Um, and there's other things tied into that as well, like my faith and things I believe in. But I won't dive too much into that right now. But even just on a surface level, I've learned to get comfortable with not knowing
I think
because it's
that's what
not
it comes back
something.
to. I
Yeah,
think that's
it's
what
not
it
going to
comes
go
back to.
away. I
It's all
think
about
we
our
have this
relationship
idea.
with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we have this idea that, well, once I get through my 20s, because I remember thinking things like this. Once I get through my 20s and get like established in a job, or I get established on like the path I'm supposed to be on, that things will just kind of work out and figure themselves out. And some of that happens, but what comes with a chapter of life ending and a new chapter beginning, it's not that you fix things and they're fixed forever. You just trade problems. The things that you worried about and the things that you struggled with in your 20s, some of that may come with you, but I would argue that some of that you probably outgrown and you trade it for things that now are different just because of the chapter of life you're in. Um, so yeah, it's embrace the uncertainty and get comfortable with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's all about changing our relationship with uncertainty. Because when the uncertainty a lot of times prompts us some types of anxiety or fear about what the outcome might be. And so we search for certainty and stability as a way to kind of to navigate through it. And that's not a bad thing. I think it's just good to know that that's the process. What the other
Yeah.
side of stability though is boring. When things are very stable, then there's not a lot of upside. Your 20s have a lot of upside to them because you have time, you have ability, you have your health for the most part, and you
Mm,
have options. And it can be overwhelming to think about all your options. You have options about who you want to associate with, you have options about where you want to go, what you want to do, how you want to do it. The older you get, and when we say age, we really mean like with the increases of responsibility that come along with progressing through life. With those increased responsibilities, the need for stability is higher, and so the trade-off for possibilities kind of go down a little bit. And that's why you'll hear and see people, and it's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons why you hear and see people who have a lot of stability. They have a stable job. They have the assets that they need in place. They have on paper the great life, right? But they don't feel fulfilled. And you hear people talk about midlife crises and things like that. The search for upside, the search for spontaneousness, the search for new, and and that's something that the more you get achieve stability, the less you have access to. And that's why sometimes people find themselves prompted to just go do something off the wall and a little unhinged because they're looking for that spontaneousness that they miss from their 20s or
mm,
maybe their teenage years and things like that. And so the the opposite, or sorry, not the opposite, the antithesis of having all this ability to have spontaneousness is that you might experience anxiety and fear. But if
mm.
you search for a life of only stability and only safety, then you might run the risk of so much stability that you lack the option for fulfillment because that can be the other side. So there is no perfect side. And so instead, I think the route we most find helpful is to do a balance of both. Seek stability, but make sure you have fun. Find the
Yeah.
thing that is going to give you a sense of long lasting purpose and understand that you may, in the search for stability, have a more boring life. And can you be okay with that? Now, if you don't want a boring life and you want a lot of options and you want a lot of possibilities, that's okay. But that just might mean that stability and long term foundational things might be a little bit more difficult to come by. So just understanding the trade off, but ebbs and flows and the backs and forths that come with that, I think can be very, very important, especially as you navigate the 20s.
Yeah. I do want to take just a second here just to encourage our listeners and maybe even some of our viewers that we are on Spotify. We are also on YouTube at the moment. Both of those platforms, you can find us under Mental Caffeine. Yeah, I just So you kind of saying that and kind of weighing out the options of like, those paths that you just talked about. Something that popped in my head that I want to something that I've been focusing on personally in my own life and that I'm still working on, but this is also something I want to encourage younger people than me to pursue. So we've heard the phrase pursuit of happiness, right?
Hmm.
And I want to flip that just a second. And this isn't like, again, this isn't unique to me. This isn't like an original thought, but it is something that resonates with me. I want to encourage young people to not necessarily pursue happiness. There's nothing wrong with being happy. There's nothing wrong with things that make you happy. But happiness is fleeting. Happiness is something that does not have staying power, and it leaves just as quickly as it comes. Instead, I want to encourage young people to pursue peace. Um, Peace is that right there, the pursuit of peace is something that has been a game changer for me in my life. Um, Things that so like this is like an example. This isn't like anything that's happened, but like let's say I'm angry at someone, right? There was a point in my life where it would make me happy to like get back at them or say something ugly to them or do something like that. They would make me feel good. A moment that's fleeting. But now, because of the perspective shift that I've had and the pursuit of peace, now I'm able to avoid putting myself in a situation where I would be angry with them to begin with. And it protects, and that's just one example. I won't go down, there's all kinds of ways you can protect your peace. But in that specific example, it protects them from getting hurt. It protects me from getting overly involved in myself getting hurt. And and all in all, it's just easier to navigate. I also want to highlight that the pursuit of happiness, pursuing something that you think might make you happy, might be detrimental to you. I think that happens a lot to people in their 20s. They see things that, well, if I could just obtain this or participate in this, it would make me happy. Some of those things, yes, but some of those things may not be good for you. Um,
To
but
say
I
to
think
say it a
something that
slightly
is,
different way is that peace is a
yeah, go ahead.
process, not a result. Peace is a process. It's
Yes,
not a result.
it is
Peace
a
is in
process.
the active way that you organize and relate to whatever it is that you're going through. And in general, if you want to prioritize peace, remember that if you prioritize peace, the trade off of that is that excitement might not be the name of the game.
Mm,
If you want excitement, excitement might come at the expense of peace, depending on how you organize it, right? But if you want
that's
to
right.
prioritize peace, prioritization of peace is a active decision about how you relate to the things around you. And so it's a process, it's not an end result. And it creates uh, opportunity for work to happen. Peace, I think a lot of times, Landon, to your point, is that peace is often framed as something that you just achieve. And once you achieve it, you're fine. Peace is not that way. It's something you have to cultivate. It's something you have to work towards. It's something you have to organize around. And it is the foundation that you orient yourself from in order to relate to everything else around you. And when it comes to your 20s, because everything is in flux, the whole goal maybe is to try to find peace. And a lot of times, I think folks look for peace in the result of their college career or the result of their uh, actions and activities. But instead, if we can orient that our peace is the process by which we access these things, then we can take full advantage of the volatility and the ups and downs and enjoy them for what they're worth and seek stability, but to not let the outcome of these processes determine our sense of peace. Our sense of peace can be determined by how we're relating to the process at all in the beginning.
Mhm. Yep. And I know we're running a little short on time here, but we got a few minutes. Something else that I wanted to, I guess it's just on my heart to kind of speak to the younger people who are listening at the moment because I remember how hard those years were, at least for me personally. I Something else I just want to kind of pass down is this idea that you're supposed to have things figured out. Um, and this is like, again, this is not a like, again, this is not unique. This is something you can pull up a million TikToks about it, but like, there's a reason people keep saying it. So I'm 31, right? There's a lot about my life, and some of that stuff going on in my life, Justin. There's a lot about my life I don't have figured out yet. Um, some of it I do have figured out, and some of it I have grown. and I've kind of established myself, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this works for me. But those things that I haven't figured out, they're still there, and that's okay. Um, a lot of people, I remember a lot of people in their 20s think that they set these milestones for themselves, right? I gotta get this by the time I'm 25. I gotta get this by the time I'm, pushing 30. All this stuff. One of the greatest truths to me that I have learned transitioning from my 20s into my 30s is that no one ever really has it figured out. On top of, we are all on our own path. Some people accomplish, and this is just one example, some people accomplish financial success very early in life. They're good at it, they know what they're doing, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people it takes until they're almost 40, 50 years old to accomplish what they would consider financial success. So just take that example and apply it to pretty much anything in your life. We all are different. We're all different. We're all unique. We're all individuals, which means we all learn it. We all learn at different rates, and we all desire different things. We're all different. Everybody's unique. And so this idea that you're supposed to accomplish certain things and obtain certain things by certain mile markers in your life, it's nonsense. And throw that out the window, because that line of thinking is only going to put pressure on yourself, and it's going to disturb your peace. Instead, I would encourage you to, and in a lot of ways I'm talking to myself too, I would encourage you to just chill out, just take a second to breathe, um, fully accept that, like, it's okay. Like, it's okay that I don't have this figured out, because beating yourself up is not going to help anything. But just, take a chill pill, focus, and work towards what you think is going to bring you peace, not happiness. Um, yeah.
So
I
along that line, man, to try to get us
yeah,
towards the wrapping up process, your 20s
sure.
are weird. Why are they weird? Your 20s are weird because they're all over the place. Your 20s are weird because a whole lot of stuff is new. Your 20s are weird because there's a big search for stability amongst a huge ocean of uncertainty and unknown. There's so many paths to take, and it's not really clear which path you should take. And if you take a certain path, there's a certain sense that a lot of people carry with them that whatever path you take is the one you're stuck with. And what Landon and I are trying to encourage you, anybody who might be listening, who might be in their 20s, is to remember a couple things. Number one, your priorities have not fully taken shape yet. That's kind of part of this process in this decade. And so your thoughts need to be geared towards, I believe, what do you want your priorities to look like? What are the things that are important to you? What are the ways that you can organize your life that when you lay your head down at night, you can feel good about the process that you're going with? Is it that you want to prioritize stability? Okay, well, that comes with trade offs. Is it that you want to prioritize having fun and excitement? Okay, well, that comes with trade offs. Is it that you want to just open yourself up to whatever possibilities may come? Okay, that also comes with trade offs. Or is it that you want to just do whatever you need to do to appease whoever it is that might be around you? Okay, well, that comes with trade offs. Every path comes with trade offs. And it's about our relationship with uncertainty. Can we embrace the uncertainty for what it's worth? Can we use that to try to identify and cement our priorities? And can we then navigate through those things, understanding that things are going to change and that change is not actually a bad thing? Change helps us grow and helps us learn, it helps us mature, and it helps us be able to organize what we want the next stage of our life to look like. Because even though your 20s are full of the most volatility, it won't be the last time you experience volatility. And so you can really lay the foundation in the 20s about how you want your life to look from there. So Landon and I would both encourage anybody out there to really embrace these opportunities. And yes, there's going to be ups, and yes, there's going to be downs. And it's okay that both of those are the case, because both of those are going to teach you what you think is really important. And whenever you find out what that is, man, put yourself around people who have those kinds of priorities that you do. If it's financial success, if it's peace, if it's excitement, if it's stability, whatever it is, or maybe it's more niched down than that, but put yourself around those kinds of people. Put yourself in community where that's a common thing, and do all those things and cultivate a sense of direction that you want to go with. And remember, you can always change it. It's not in cement. You can always change it. You can always change it. So with that, boy, I think that might be where we can push pause on this, and maybe we can pick back up on it if somebody in the comments wants us to go a slightly different direction. What do you think?
Yeah, man, absolutely. If you couldn't tell, this is kind of a topic I'm pretty passionate about, just because it is such a weird time in your life, and it affects you the rest of your life. But I just want to bounce, and I know we got to go, but I just want to bounce off of what you said just real quick, and just kind of drive the point home. It's never too late to change something, ever. I think that's another trap people fall into, is they think that they've got to have stuff figured out, and they think that I'm past the point of changing, and it's just not true. So I just wanted to drive that point home one more time. But Justin, I've enjoyed it. This is a great topic. I'm Landon,
I'm Justin.
and we'll see you next time.
Peace.